There you go. Everybody, cups up. Welcome to another episode of the Unlocked Podcast, where we are three business owners from across the entire globe representing a worldwide audience, sharing our experiences around running locksmith and security businesses. We have a very niche audience that we're going after here, is unlocking basically behind the scenes of what it is to run a locksmith and security business. And we are excited to have these Yeah, it's exciting. We've been having a lot of good conversations and a lot of good feedback. So thank you for coming in for another episode where today we are going to be talking about a successful customer service team. Some may say customer success team, but that would be terrible. So we'll be discussing all of that and more today on the Unlocked Podcast. My name is Chad Lingefeld.
I'm Tony Hoganson.
Come on, Tony, with a little more energy this time.
Live from the sauna in Minnesota, Flemington, Minnesota.
You know, you joke about the sauna. The other day I was in here. It's getting warm in Minnesota now. We're up to like 60 degrees. And I looked and our temperature in my sauna here was like almost 80. I was like, my gosh, it is a sauna.
Because it's a sauna.
Yeah.
Oh, man, for those that don't have a clue what Tony's talking about, shouldn't be surprising. But pop onto the YouTube channel, check it out. Tony's got some beautiful background paneling that 1977 that actually won paneling of the year. So
courtesy of the insurance company that occupied this office before me.
That's nice. I should mention, because the star of the show always goes last, Lars Johnson coming from the 51st state known as Canada.
Yes.
I am super excited to talk about customer service, guys.
Yes.
You can tell by the tone of your voice.
Yeah, the excitement exudes out of the introduction here, but man, I don't have the intro song queued up today, so my apologies.
Ladies and gentlemen.
That was great.
That's pretty close.
That was very, very, very similar. So the other day, Lars, you missed this, but we were on a kind of an industry peer group call that
I didn't say I missed it necessarily.
Yeah, that you were supposed to be on, but you didn't show up. Anyways,
his AI did though, so it was much
Glenn
more
Younger, who was one of our his AI
Uncle Glenn.
Uncle Glenn, who's one of our 4 listeners, opened up the meeting with a quick little quip to roast Tony and said, "We're glad that Tony is here today and that he's not in his towel since he's sitting in his sauna." And I thought it was the best opening line of a meeting.
Man, now that's how you intro.
That's
how you intro.
So we really should just get Uncle Glenn to come on and introduce the episodes every week.
Yeah, coffee time with Uncle Glenn.
Also, we got a pretty good shout out from Steve Van Til from Brevo. I was at a advisory board conference meeting with him and a bunch of integrators from across the globe. And he mentioned the episodes that we had around pricing and in regards to the value of pricing security. And I thought that was really cool as well.
I was just warning Joey to plug his ears.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
just in case. Yeah.
So I appreciate all those things because it really is just kind of taking these conversations that we're having and then sharing them out with as many people as possible. Today we're going to be talking about customer service. I was thinking about it because we were roasting Tony a little bit about this topic, since he is if you ever think that there's an amazing topic, Tony probably came up with it. And if it's a terrible, terrible topic, Tony came up with it as well, because he is in charge of all the episode content and he just kind of tosses it out to us. But
he really reached for this one. Let's talk about customer service.
I was originally picking with him about it. How is boring is this topic? But then I started thinking about it.
That's just your natural reaction, though.
It is. It's just
when you speak. Yeah.
So I started actually thinking about it, and I really am excited to talk about customer service. And I was thinking back to when I was a youngster. My first job, I started when I was 10 years old as a janitor, and then I started a business.
You're a 10-year-old janitor.
Yeah.
Is that what you just said?
Okay, pretty sure that's illegal.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that.
Let's not dive into that topic, but go ahead.
Then I started my own business as a popsicle distributor, where I was purchasing popsicles and charging a markup to construction workers. Then I moved on to graphics and website design when I was 12. All of that to lead up to I started working at Chick-fil-A. Lars, I don't know if you're familiar with Chick-fil-A, but this is a restaurant, quick service.
I thought you guys call it Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A. I don't know.
Chick-fil-A.
That's French, guys. Anyway, keep going.
Which, fun fact, when my wife first moved to North Carolina, she saw Chick-fil-A and she thought it was a ladies' shoe store.
Oh, she'll be happy to hear that. Thanks for sharing that with everyone.
That's great, isn't it? Because Fila's was a big shoe brand back in the day. Anyway, I started working at Chick-fil-A when I was like 14, 15, something like that. And the reason that I shared all of that story with you was one of the really big takeaways that I pulled from Chick-fil-A was around customer service. That is part of their culture that they have built in. And at 15 years old, they took us to a 2-day customer service seminar where they basically taught you the ins and outs of how to provide a really good quality customer service experience. After that, I got involved with a radio station when I was in high school, and then worked there for 6 years or so after high school. And the owner of that radio station was all about client service. And so I took those two things together, and it's really molded a lot of my perspective on customer service and how we have applied it into our business today. So after processing a little bit, after I initially said this is a terrible topic, Tony, then I started thinking about it. I was like, man, there's actually a lot of practical applications that we can pull out of this. So there's your setup.
Actually, there's a couple things there. I'm a little disappointed your janitorial career didn't work out for you. And I also like the sound and alliteration of Terrible Topic Tony.
Terrible Topic Tony. Yep.
Terrible Topic Tony. And Tony, you could probably work that into your
future topics.
Introductions going forward too. I'm Terrible Topic Tony from Minneapolis. However,
it's got a nice ring to it for sure.
Yeah, Tony, do you want to jump into this?
Yeah, so I put this topic down because I think a lot of times customer service is easily, I don't want to say forgotten, but we'll go with that. But they are the first person that the customer talks to. And a lot of times that's the first thing people remember. They pick up the phone, they call. And if you talk to someone that's grouchy or you talk to somebody that doesn't know what they're talking about, it really leaves a bad taste in the customer's mouth, and they may not even choose to use you. So it's a really, if you're focused on growth and focused on just keeping your business and keeping customers happy, it's really an important aspect to it. And I think it's, especially in our industry, so many people are focused on, being good technicians, having good sales, and it's really something that's easily forgotten. And I think it's incredibly important. So wanted to kind of talk through a little bit about how we do customer service, or how all three of us do customer service. I think we probably do it a little bit differently. Chad has a fancy name for it. I decided to do a different name, and Lars just probably
the best
correct.
Do you guys have grouchy people in Minnesota?
No. Well, if they weren't born here, yes. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, gosh, it's snowing again.
Yeah.
I assume that's what it sounds like.
Yeah. Like if you guys moved here, we would know you're not Minnesotan.
Well, fair.
Yeah.
Because Lars sounds Canadian.
Well,
yeah,
no,
because you're ridiculous.
You're not nice people.
Whoa. Hey, that was a little targeted. You just said you weren't nice, Lars.
Yeah, that was a salty Tony response as usual. I would agree. Oh God, I hate starting any sentence with like that. But, I would agree that it is often overthought. You don't think about the customer service aspect a lot. One of the things, it was actually 13 years ago when we bought the first company, there was, a blurb above the door that the old owner had. But I talk about it at our quarterly events, and we talk about our mission being the feeling of safety. And, it's pretty intentional choosing those words because, if you look online and, the way the world works right now, online reviews drive your business. And if you read the online reviews, you're not going to read that, that Tony in Minnesota, he really straightened the heck out of my door. Chad really cut a perfect 90-degree angle, right? That isn't the stuff that people are noticing. What they are noticing, all the reviews will be, that Lars is so charming and charismatic. He was such a nice guy.
Yeah, let me pull up your reviews real quick and see if that's on any
you
of
have
them.
to search pretty deep to find that one. But, all of the reviews are talking about the way that you made people feel.
Yeah.
And you can do a lot of things wrong, but if you make people feel important and make them feel heard and understood, it gets you a long way. Yeah. That's what builds that repetitive base of customers. Because, the old adage is, every negative they tell 10 people every positive, they tell one. But that word of mouth, you ask anyone in our industry, what drives business and repetitive business? It's word of mouth, right? If you want to get a lot of open ups and calling for emergency locksmiths to come let me in my car, get on Google and spend a bunch of money on that. But the best way to drive your business is do well servicing the people that you have, and they will tell their friends. And that's just it. So the customer service feeling is really, really important in our industry and probably in all industries, but it's more about how you're leaving people and how they feel about the experience.
What you said
sure.
is really important. We were talking about growing our businesses, and every one of us or all of us are growth oriented, and that's why we're putting this podcast on, is to help people grow. And I think we focus on sales, but really the best way to grow is, like you said, keep your customers happy. They will tell other customers. They will keep using you. If you do the basic customer service things well, people will keep coming back, and you're going to get repeat business, and then they're going to tell their friends, and you're going to grow. I think that's something that really is a good takeaway.
So you're one of the items is like that first impression thing. So every single one of us at a point has probably answered the phone for our businesses and interacted with customers. Again,
Never
going back
have.
to, I'm sorry?
Never have.
You've never answered the phone?
No.
I'm shocked. Okay.
Can you imagine Tony on the phone?
I mean, I've answered
like,
my
hey,
phone.
who are
Like
you?
if
What are you
someone
doing?
calls me,
what's your last name? What do you
like
like?
I've dealt
That
with
is-
customers, but
per-
I've never answered our main line, I don't think.
That is
Once or
probably
twice,
fair,
but,
though.
It would
If you
be-
did, I mean, it would be a 32-minute conversation because of all the questions you would ask them.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'd get all the details.
Yeah, it's like, this is the address, and this is the color of the home, and this is the cousin's name, and this is when his sister got married, and just a standard Tony conversation.
What's your favorite restaurant?
What golf courses do you play?
One of the big takeaways that I had from Chick-fil-A with that first impression, right? When a customer walked into the store, it was immediately you wanted to respond. You wanted to greet them with a smile, and they had a tag. It's a great day at Chick-fil-A. Blah blah blah. And when we,
that's a title.
it is. But you think about it when you are interacting with somebody. If you're running a business and you're busy and you pick up the phone, hello, locksmith. Like, that's your
Locksmith here.
Yeah, I mean, and that's very common. Locksmith. And it's kind of off-putting to a customer. And so you really think about that first impression, that interaction that you have within the first few seconds of any meeting with somebody, in person or over the phone. It's, what does that interaction look like? Are you making them feel welcome? And, that was one of the big shifts we had years ago, was how do we answer the phone? What's the first thing that we state? And one thing that we had tweaked years ago was, thank you for calling LockDoc Security. My name is Chad. Who am I speaking with? And just really out of the gate, take control of that conversation. But the theory is, if a customer's calling, they may not catch that first few milliseconds, right? So
who's this?
Whatever you're saying at the beginning. So then give it a bit of a pause and then introduce yourself. Ask for their name. Now you already have their name, their contact, whatever, and now you're ready to go into the conversation. So first impressions is huge whenever you're dealing with people as a whole. You think about some of the most positive interactions that you've had or customer experiences that you've had, and they really set the tone out of the gate with what you can expect. It's not just you walk in somewhere and they walk up to the counter and they're like, hey, what do you want? Really the ones that have been impactful to you, they've really set a tone.
What is your opinion, or you guys' opinion, on customer support and scripting? You call so many places and you can tell they're just way over scripted, right? And you have, you can tell the person's basically reading the script. And one thing that we value is creating personalized connections with our customers and making sure that we act as humans, because again, you want to create that relationship with the customer. You want them to call you back. You don't want to be over scripted, but at the same point, you do want some form of standards. And I think it's a fine line to balance. And I'm interested to hear what you guys think, what you guys do as far as standardizing without getting too robotic in customer support.
I just spent the last 3 days with my management team. We had an offsite and we were talking about, things that are important to our company.
That's what that text meant.
Yeah, that was,
I
can't believe you couldn't figure out that. I had a little minor snafu with voice to text. I had a couple yesterday, actually. I had to have an apologetic conversation with one of my team members for what came out. But minor detail. So I was offsite for 3 days, and we were just, we're talking about, being a corporation versus a small business, right? And this will surprise virtually anyone that's ever met me. I'm not a big corporate believer. I believe that when a company gets large enough, it gets bad enough.
Yeah.
It's a direct relation. So, when the challenge is, I know why corporation gets the way it does and gets scripted is the reference I'm making here, because when there's so many people, it's hard to rely on common sense. It's hard to rely on knowledge
and have consistency.
And that's exactly it. Consistency. Yeah. If it's on paper, we write it down, and everyone, especially our left brain individuals with us, that we want consistency. We want to make sure we check all the boxes, and we have to remember at the same time that the more we try to manage that, the less personal it is. And remember that what's driving the interaction and what drives, business is the relationship. So, when I actually take part in the onboarding of our frontline people, and, when they hear we have recorded calls, and, I have some of my own calls, and I answer the phone. It's, Calgary Long and say, hey, it's Lars, or hey, it's Lars. How's it going, man? Oh, it's Chad. Hey, man, how's it going? What's happening? What's going on? Like, it's a very personal way of, of interacting. And because it's, again, it just goes back to my original point. They will always remember the way you make them feel. But that, of course, takes years of training and confidence and knowing what you're talking about. And, you can make mistakes and, that whole avenue. But I just value that personal connection more than that consistency, I guess.
I really like that. So you're training not through scripts, you're training through experience. You're playing recorded calls and letting them listen to, this is how Lars acts when a call is answered, and getting a little taste for this is how Lars wants this done. I really like that.
So I hate scripted things.
Yeah, agreed.
Sorry, Chad, let me respond to that, and I'll dump back to you there. But so we actually, it's PBX or whatever the technology is on our phones, and it's a free device that saves it to the cloud. And our literal training process is, I'll just go up to the cloud, we'll sit around a table, we'll hit play, we'll listen to it. I'll stop it after the introduction, say, how'd we do? What'd we hit? Did we identify ourselves? Did we say who we are? Yeah. And then we'll listen to another 4 or 5 seconds, and then, okay, what do you think's actually happening? And just walk it through that way. That's literally how we do it. That's a very practical application. Sorry, Chad, you were saying.
No, you're fine. I hate the scripted side, and the reason for it is at some point in time you're going to hit a dead end. So one of the things, not to go completely sidetrack on a culture index reference, but one of the things that we look for with a customer service person is someone that has low C, so they're very flexible and adaptable, and they don't have to get stuck.
Velocity.
Anytime we've had somebody in a high C position, which is the focus or the pattern.
Lower velocity, higher repetitive task. Yeah.
Correct. Then they will typically want to do things a very specific way. And when the customer takes them down a different path, then they can get lost or frustrated. So having that high level of flexibility is good. The big thing that I have tried to set a tone for our organization is really diving back to our core values, because it is a predetermined set of decisions that they can go after. So the two that I would really harp on for customer service is our outrageous kindness core value and our courageous honesty. And we define outrageous kindness by treating others better than you want to be treated, and courageous honesty by handling the truth early and often. Don't hide things or cover things up. So that's really where it comes down to is, when you're interacting with a customer, are we showing them a level of outrageous kindness where we are treating them at a better than we want to be treated aspect? And then are we treating it from an honesty perspective? Are we being upfront? Are we giving them the information that needs to be shared? And we have both of, if we can balance both of those things, then the customer service experience is going to be incredible. And I reference back a lot to some books that I've read, podcasts that I've listened to. I think it's, it's one of the hotel chains, and I don't remember which one. It might be Four Seasons or something like that, where they have activated every single employee the ability to take an exponential opportunity to create a wonderful customer service experience.
Right.
And so they don't really have a whole lot of limitations around it, and they don't have the scripting. They just say, we want our guests to have the most outrageous experience, like the most incredible experience, and every single person is responsible for it. And one of the ways that they manage that is they have daily small team huddles. So it's the housekeeping staff, it's the frontline customer service staff, it's the restaurant staff, all that. They have these huddles, and they share examples of how they made a customer's experience extraordinary the day before. And so they're just constantly spinning these ideas with each other. It's not scripted. It's just, I went out of the way and, found a toy for a kid that was in the restaurant and was bored. That's taking that level of experience up one notch. So I believe if you have more parameters to stick with, and then let people make their own decisions instead of the scripting.
Yeah, I hate scripting as well, and it's something your comment about how you seem to have standardized your intro at least, and that made me think of that. But I really like that because we don't do any scripting either, and I don't want to, but I've thought about that as we grow. How do we make sure we're keeping some form of a standard while avoiding that scripting? And those are really good takeaways. I like that.
So do you define customer service and dispatching as two different roles? Is it the same person? Like, how does that work inside of your organizations? So we have kind of gone through a couple of shifts with that. Historically, I think when you're small, the default is that you have the one person doing both, right? You answer the phones, you book calls. I think what we've learned is it comes down to a lot about how you schedule. But what I noticed a couple of years ago was that customer service should be focused on keeping the customer happy, and dispatch should be focused on being efficient. And those are two different things and two different people. Your logistics person is going to have a far different mindset, far different culture index than your customer service person. So we've separated them. Now they're two completely different teams. Our operations team does all the scheduling, and our customer service team takes care of customers. So we have separated the departments, separated the teams. They operate independently. They work very closely with each other, but again, they have different goals in mind, and we've found that split to be effective. It's challenging from time to time because they are so related, and you have to very clearly define what the role is of customers. We call it customer support, and then what the role is of field operations. But we found it well. We have found it to work very well separated. They can back each other up from time to time, but overall, they should be separate. At what point did you separate them, Tony? Because, I mean, obviously that wasn't possible as a smaller organization. Do you remember kind of size?
Didn't you
volume?
wait for me to try it first to see if it worked?
It was around that time. So we actually separated it back during COVID.
That's fair honesty.
So, gosh, we had probably 25, 30 employees. We separated it later than we should have. We actually separated it, and I became dispatcher. I didn't like how I didn't like how our scheduling was going, and it wasn't. Again, we had the same person answering the phone doing the scheduling, and I didn't like that because they were scheduling to take care of the customer, which you should do, but they were completely ignoring, not completely ignoring, but they were leading towards the side of what does the customer want? I will give them what they want, as opposed to, where can this person be scheduled? Where can this easily fit? And not thinking about it from an operations standpoint. So, I started doing the scheduling, created the processes around it, and then handed it off to somebody. Unfortunately, at that time, the person I handed it off to, who's still here, he was managing the customer support team and the dispatch team. So we kind of had to combine them out of capacity issues. But now we have completely separated them. We have 3 or 4 customer support reps and then a field support manager.
Yeah, this is going to be a bit of a long explanation here, but
we'll do our best to interrupt you as much as possible.
Yeah, I'll try and keep this concise because I know if a piece of tinfoil rolls on the ground, Chad will get distracted. But, about, I'm going to say that there was probably 50 members on our team at this time. I noticed there was a lot of turnover in the role. Customer service is an entry-level role, generally speaking. So you'll see a higher turnover than other roles. But what I noticed was that we basically had 3 people answering the phone, and then one of them kind of dictated the schedule of who was going where and when. But I noticed that, the phone would ring. The reaction was, oh God, rather than, hey, the phone, I want to talk to this person.
Mm-hmm.
And, we talk about, sorry, Tony, did you just,
He just had a chime or something? Is somebody coming in to
did
visit?
you just move your table up mid-sentence?
No. Moved it down.
Did somebody
No.
just,
we moved it down. Completely different.
And so you're better now. I'll continue. All right, perfect. Thanks, Tone. The automated sauna button needed to be pressed. Like I said, there was tinfoil on the ground, and you got distracted. I'm sorry. So I'll try and speed up here. But
that's not going to happen.
Our just noticed that it wasn't working. We had lots of turnover, and it seemed to be two separate roles. And this was right around the time of Culture Index and really understanding people, and realized, there's a specific characteristic within Culture Index, which, if you don't know what that is, just do a quick Google and look at Culture Index. I think around, episode 2 or 3, I think we talked about Culture Index a bit. But we looked at specifically this social ability, and noticed that our people that had high social ratings generally have higher empathy, which is a crucial part of the role. But the high social ability, they liked to be on the phone. They liked to answer the phone. It's a race to get it. And then, hey, how's it going? How are you? What are you doing today? That whole feeling and that experience that we really wanted. And then the flip side was, when they had to route optimize and do that, they're like, I don't really want to do that. And I think that's kind of what you were speaking to, Tony.
Yes.
So I realized that, these are probably two separate, kind of people, because it's very hard to find people that can, want to be that social animal, but also can sit there and kind of figure out this puzzle of who's going where and when. Like if we go back 6 years, the first kick at the cat here was, I wanted to create a role we called the customer experience rep. That specifically, my idea was whoever answers the phone and talks to that customer now owns that customer. Mm-hmm. So they take care of that call, they dispatch the call, they send that invoice all. So they did all 3 areas, because if there was ever a question about that dispatch or that service request, there was always one point of contact, because I didn't want this, I got to send you accounting, I got to send you to scheduling, or all that crap. So we tried this, found that it was a good customer experience. They liked it, but it didn't work very well because it was really hard to find someone that wanted to invoice, that wanted to schedule, and wanted to answer the phone. So we scrapped that idea, separated that. We now have a whole group of, if we're talking Culture Index, we have 4 people that are that high social, that are low autonomy. So they're a team-oriented group, because in that customer service group, they all have to work as a team and they sit very close to each other. They are high velocity, and they are high attention to detail. Now, that was the characteristic that we've gone back and forth. But when they're gathering the information, and this was a huge learning moment for me, but the people that are gathering the information need that high attention to detail, because we got little things like when I answer the phone, I forgot to mention, what was that customer's name? I forgot. Or their address, or hey, the phone number only has 5 digits. Little things like that, they get in the way. But so our people gathering the information, high attention to detail, and then we have another group that, sit in a different office in a quiet kind of room by themselves that are doing the scheduling. Mm-hmm. And those people aren't high attention to detail. They're actually more on the creative side, the adaptive side. Because if you want to make your service business more successful, I highly encourage you to find the creative, nonconformist types in your scheduling department, because they will move calls constantly. It's like a constant game of how to get people where they need to go efficiently. And your natural reaction will be like, oh, well, we want somebody that's high attention to detail and, really focused. And it just, we've tried it and it works way better this way. So that was our experience over the last 6 years. It was a very expensive learning habit that I just blurted out in the last probably 5 minutes. But we've separated the roles, and our turnover has gone from probably 3 or 4 down to nothing. So it's been great.
that's a valid point, right? You talked about typically customer service is an entry level position. And I think all three of us have had this conversation probably for the last several years around that and trying to understand it. We had a very similar situation in kind of the middle ground. So early on, I actually answered the phone and did dispatch simultaneously, but it only took us up to a certain size. And then we rolled out a different person that did dispatch and customer service. And then we had to separate those roles. And I think it was probably it was about 9 years ago, but it was like around 15 to 17 employees or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And, where the volume started to become so much that we needed to have a separate person. We were missing more phone calls because somebody was trying to do both.
It's about 40 phone calls is like one person.
Yeah. So so keeping an eyeball on that. And you may be listening to it going, well, we can handle more than that. Like our volume may be increased. And you might be able to, but you also are capping your capacity at that point. So realizing where your capacity limitations are and then starting to separate it ahead of that is ideal, because you can start to have somebody this is the thing that I learned early on, is once you have somebody dedicated to answering every single phone call, that you capture so much more opportunities. One of the things that I use as an example all the time is when I first started, I was a rookie technician, and we had 3 people on the road, and we had one guy answering the phone. And I was with him with the guy answering the phone one time, and they kept rolling he would let the phone call go to voicemail. And I was like, why aren't you answering the phone? And he said, oh, the regular customers know if they leave a voicemail, then I'll get back to them. And I was like, but what about the new customers? Like the ones that don't know that. Right. And so, that's just like capturing every single opportunity. And once you started doing that, then obviously you get more opportunities. So, but going back to the entry level position. So we tried that a few times with very terrible outcomes. High turnover, not really getting the quality of work that we needed. And so about 4 years ago, I was like, okay, let's figure out a way that we can institute higher quality people in these roles and find people. Because same thing that Lars was talking about earlier, I kept running into this situation where I would get really high quality people in that role, but they were only limited in answering the phones for a couple of, maybe like 18 months or something like that.
They grew out of it pretty quick.
Yeah. Then they wanted to go to the next thing.
Yep.
And I was like, there's got to be a character type of some person that just enjoys talking on the phone to people.
Yeah.
Like, it shouldn't be limited to this. So we found some people like that, and it's been incredibly different, the outcome. So similar situation. Our customer service department is separated from the dispatch. So they receive all the phone calls, emails, text messages. So they're just interacting with the customer. And then we have the dispatcher or project manager. So the teams are separated out that are handling the scheduling and then the interaction with the technicians. So I would just say, don't look at it as an entry level position. Find the quality people that can do this, and then just take it to a whole nother level.
Yeah, and I think if you're smaller, it's important to at least, like I said, you can have the dispatcher still back up on phones, but at least make it clear, this is the dispatcher, this is customer support. The only thing we deviate on that is with our residential tickets. We've found that residential people want the answer now, and our residential is a very small piece of our business, so we do have the same person that's answering the phone just schedule while she's on the phone, because it's such a small component. But and most of our commercial, all of our commercial business, we are completely different person scheduling than, and that is taking the phone call. So,
So one other thing I wanted to add in when it comes to customer service, we have found a really big challenge in our organization where the call volume would consider one dispatcher, one person to answer the phone, or maybe 2 people to answer the phone or whatever. But we actually don't have enough call volume to keep both of those people that are answering the phone busy all the time. So it's like, in the math equation, you really need one dispatcher and one and a half phone customer service folks. But then you start to look at that from a salary perspective and go, what is the person going to do the other half of the time? And because you can't predict when those phone calls and emails are coming in. So what are the things that they can be doing that are not responsive that they can be proactive on that will not inhibit them from also being that additional phone person. And then the other thing that we had to keep in mind is a PTO, pay time off, vacation. It works really well, but then if you have just two people, when you shrink down to one, then they're significantly overloaded.
And so that's about a month a year, really.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
And so we had to go to the adding the extra person to continue to grow the staff, and then find things that they can do to bring value to that customer service role that would also bring benefit to the organization, while them not just sitting there twiddling their thumbs for a majority of the time.
You know, terrible topic. Tony picked this topic, and I've hated every moment of it until we started talking about it. You know, we've never talked about that before, Chet.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we do too. I was just thinking, you know, we're overstaffed in our customer service area. But now our customer service, I think one of them, she enters payments. So we get checks still, right, that come in. She enters payments into the system. You know, another one does a lot of the administration work, you know, your certificates of insurance, your, you know, all the, I'm going to call them contractor checks, compliance forms, all that kind of crap. But they all have like additional administration stuff that must be done on site. And that's how we've bridged the gap, because we need 4.5. And so some days when, you know, people are sick or whatever, we're bang on, but most days we just have that extra half a person. And what do they do? You know, various stuff. So then actually,
and I think that's why a lot of times people try to combine the customer support role with dispatch, and that's really not the best thing to do.
It's because it stretches that individual.
Right.
And it's two different people. I mean,
correct.
We've separated it into two things for backup activities. One, like you said, a lot of administrative activities. If there's anything you're entering data into system, just basic stuff that you can do and be interrupted by the phone. But also we've tried to turn our customer support team into almost like an inside sales team, helping the sales team out, helping people with follow-ups, doing calling customers back. How do we do? And really trying to, and that's how we try to make it not just an entry level position either, and trying to use the team to drive more sales. What can we do to get more out of that and support the sales team in essence?
Okay, so that's where I was headed too, because it's an incredible ad. One of the things we tried early on was having our customer service folks call back to our customers like 3 days after we finished a service call to see how we did and if there was anything that we needed to follow up on. And that was terrible. Like it was the, you know, a great concept, but then we found that customers were like, my gosh,
what do you want?
You're really just taking a whole lot of my time. If it's their problem, I'll call you back. But we were hitting them with a survey, like a net promoter score survey, and then we were following up with I was like, hey, let's take it up a notch and make sure that we're staying communicative and that we're not missing anything. But then it apparently turned into overload. But what we did is we augmented one of our individuals to where he's a customer service person, but he also kind of plays an inside salesperson role, and he's responsible for a customer saturation program. So the theory is, we have really 5 major categories of revenue that we work under, and we are able to get that report. So I'm actually looking at his dashboard right now.
Like Visa and non-Visa, or is that separate?
So he has a report here on accounts that we haven't serviced in the past 30 days. So it shows the last service date.
Oh, that's cool. And that's a dashboard.
Yeah. And then he can see like the value associated with it, and then the different product categories or revenue categories that we have done with that customer in the past. So now he makes outbound phone calls to that to that customer and says, hey, cool, looks like we haven't serviced you. Anything we can help you out with? Also, it looks like we've never offered any cameras to you. So would you be interested in, do you have cameras on your facility? Is this something that you are satisfied with, or you need a quote on some additional cameras or whatever? And so he has clear visibility on the products and services that we have actually worked with a customer on and the ones that we haven't, so he can speak into that. So if he knows, hey, we actually have their access control system, cool. Everything working well there? Do you need any additional support on training? Do you need any additional doors or whatever? So he's got this great visibility, and then his ultimate responsibility is to make outbound calls on a daily basis to customers that we haven't been in contact with over a period of time.
Yeah, I don't know who thought of that, Chad, but that's a really good idea. So
Couldn't have been
whoever
Chad.
on your end, whoever on your team came up with that idea, let them know that's a good one. I actually made a note.
Yeah.
And also, Tony, you'll notice I just did it quietly and didn't just type into the podcasting studio software. So shout out to last week. All right.
Tony's just staring you down like
It's
darts to Canada.
It's one of my favorite things is just Tony the hamster just turning mean for a minute. I just picture the hamster in his head running on the wheel, stopping and staring at me and then going back. So
I guess the final thing is like, what are you thinking about AI? Is AI going to take customer service away? Is anybody figuring out a way to augment some of this customer service interactions from a artificial intelligence standpoint?
Well, how much time do you have?
We have like 3.5 minutes, I think. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So also, Tony, this is your warning. Guess what's coming?
Are we going to a part 2 or no?
The next Triple T is what's coming. So
You didn't answer
do you
my
want to
question.
go to a part 2 on this? Is that do you think there's enough conversation around customer service? Like,
No. But
okay.
I guess
My
there's no part
question
two,
is, are
Tony.
we recording the next topic today or next week?
Yes. Today.
Yes.
We're making decisions in real time here for our audience.
Yes, and
this is all
if
well
you
planned.
want, again, this is a good moment. Hopefully we can get a screen capture of Tony's face of just the sheer terror of what happened. I'm going to jump into AI and let you guys process some information internally there. But so I truly believe the next version of what's coming is, a prosperous time for the trades and service industry. Right now, once you get to what I'm going to just call that plateau level, after you've hired about 13 people on your team, you start adding administrator to technical person, revenue generating to non-revenue generating at about a 1-to-1 ratio. It's somewhere in that range. And the administrative portion is so ineffective, not due to the people, but due to the lack of process and technology that we have. Like I know we've talked about this in previous podcasts, but just think about in your given work life, you probably use 15 different softwares.
Mm-hmm.
So with AI, the ability to grab data from wherever, whenever, is going to make that administrative group so much more efficient that we're no longer going to have to get to that 1-to-1 ratio. And as far as the customer service area is, like, just picture being able to listen and have a conversation with the customer. And as you are, the AI is listening to it and it's pulling, and your customer's locked out, and the AI pulls up a cut sheet for a keypad, shows you the GPS of where this customer is, the price on the keypad, the dimensions, your stock and availability, where a supplier might have it, and has all of that just, show up on the screen for you.
Yeah.
I honestly believe we're not 5 years from that. I bet you it's 2025, 2026.
Yeah.
And all it's going to do is just leverage our ability to provide value for the customers.
Yeah, I was wondering too, because I was having a conversation with somebody the other day about that is focused on AI and helping companies build bots, but as simplistic as a chat bot that could watch text messages, so you could have your customers interact with a text message just like they normally would. And if you were to drive that awareness over there and had it pre-programmed to grab particular items, then it would effectively be able to pull the address, request, scope, customer, all that stuff, and to be able to send it to. So it's not necessarily replacing the customer service, but it is making them have the ability to do more with less time.
Supplementing.
And be able, and the customer wouldn't really have any different experience. It would maybe even a little better because it would be immediate response. Yeah. And now you just pull and extract the information that you need. That is today. Like, you could build that within, a couple of days and have it up and running, to assist with those types of things. So I think there's a lot of benefits there. I do think, in our world, and at least for our business and specifically, I really like a human interacting with customers. I don't have any desire to replace that. I do think that there's a significant amount of tools that could help them to be able to process. If they're only able to process 3 work orders at a time, they could process 6 with augmentation.
Well, just not having to type and not having to click around while you're talking to somebody, so you can genuinely be engaged with the conversation. Yeah. Like I've infected all of our computers with some virus that that listens to all of my online. And sorry about that. I have no idea how to stop it. But that chatbot that shows up on all of our calls and everything. Just think of that same concept that's listening to your customer service calls, and not having to actually type anything out, and just that's where I think we got to go. And I think that's what's going to happen right away. We're not replacing that human, but that human's recording of information just becomes automated by an agent.
Yep. Yeah, I had a conversation with our customer support manager last week. He walked in my office and he was talking about this, and he's like, I don't think we'll ever need to grow our team larger than it is today. He's like, I think with AI, we're going to be able to augment this and basically focus on those things, the personal touch, the calling customers, checking in, and focus on that personal touch. And we're going to have robots that can do half this stuff better than we can already. He's like, I think we have a good enough team. We have a large team, and we don't need to add to it.
When he walked into your office, did you offer him a towel and a bottle of water, or?
It's because you're in a sauna, Tony.
Oh, interesting. That was
the joke.
I'm glad you clarified that. Yeah.
Okay, I'm good. Do we want to get to key takeaways here?
Yeah.
We're gonna land this plane. Terrible topic, Tony. You're coming up right away. Chad, do you have a key takeaway?
No one's
answered
answered my question yet.
What was your question? The next topic. You prepared for it, correct?
I have. It depends.
Oh, well, let's go.
I mean, are we doing a quick topic, or are we going?
It's all about you, Tony.
Please cut that soundbite.
Come on, Tony. You got a banger of a topic in there. We're ready for it.
I do. I have a handful, but it depends on how much time we have.
We have all the time
legitimate question
for you.
Like, this is a legitimate question.
Okay.
Are we recording another episode today?
Yes, absolutely.
And how long?
The people need these episodes. We've got to make sure we continue.
My God, can you get the words out of your mouth? What are we talking about next?
I'm not going there yet. We're going to takeaways first.
Oh, takeaways.
Oh man, I apologize to all 4 of you that are listening right now. Like, this is literally what I deal with every day with Tony.
Yeah, just in this
is
last
My Life
section.
with Tony. That's a book.
Yes,
it's a book. My Life with Tony. Okay, my key takeaway is someone in Chad's organization talked about having a dashboard that shows. That's a really cool idea. That shows, your regular customers that are 30 and anyone that you haven't been in contact with 30 days. And if you can dive into that data and have that as part of their dashboard, because we were really looking for ways to enhance our sales and the actual business being brought in through the phones. And, one of our KPIs, or our WIG for our customer service team for the next 3 months, is actually counting how many quoted jobs, if you want to call it that, our customer service team is building without having to engage with a salesperson, because we're trying to encourage them to be able to handle that, so our sales team can focus on, larger. So that was literally it. And then if you add on Chad's team's version of that, I think that's really cool. I sent that message to Matt. I think that's something we're going to look at. Tony, awesome. Do you have a takeaway for us?
I do. I really like what you said about using recorded calls for onboarding. I think that's a great one. I'd like another one.
Soundbite of that too.
Yes, that's just fine. If people haven't read it or listened to it, listen to Unreasonable Hospitality. I can't remember the guy's name. It's like Will something. He's a restaurant owner, and he basically talks about what Chad was saying with like the hotels, about just making sure what can you do to delight a customer? What can you do to keep them happy, make them sticky? He gives a lot of really cool examples of how he focused on that in their restaurants, and it's a really, really fun listen. So check that one out.
One thing that we didn't get to talk about was how to handle customer disagreements, because that's always been fun.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'll get into that into a future episode. I'm still shocked that Tony has never answered the phone for his business.
I probably have. I don't know.
That's incredible.
It's Will Gudera.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. I just didn't know how to pronounce his last name, so I didn't want to try.
Why'd you let that
Lars
stop
didn't
you?
either, so
yeah,
stop him.
Strong and wrong.
Yeah.
All right, we've got another episode coming up very soon. The topic is going to be...
So how can I break into a new market? I operate in my current market. I want to expand. I want to grow. How do I do it? What is the best strategy? We have not broken into a new market.
Break in is a good term to use for our industry.
Yeah. How do we kick the door down into a new market?
Also, kudos. I can't take credit for that topic. I talked to Michael Hansen from Phoenix, Arizona, and he gave me a list of topics that he wanted to hear about. So I have all sorts of content going forward thanks to him. So others feel free to reach out and let us know.
This is a pretty good topic, and that doesn't surprise me. This didn't come from you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah,
Triple
absolutely.
T. All right, Michael Hansen, good shout out there.
Breaking into a new market. We're going to be discussing that on the next episode. Thank you for joining us today. You can find out a list of all the episodes that we've discussed with a blog post associated with it on our website. It's unlockedpodcast.com. New episodes most every Thursday morning, sometime around 6 a.m. Eastern time. There is an accompanying video as well on our YouTube channel if you want to see Tony's sauna. If you'd like to book an appointment in Tony's sauna, you can call 274 and then we will be happy to accommodate you with that. We'll get a website up for tonysauna.com very shortly. So thank you for joining us today, and we will see you guys next week on the stellar, well-produced, and well-thought-through Unlocked podcast. See you then.